It's ADSN on the beat, where the data meets the street. James and Daniel in your feed, breaking down the code you need. Tech talk, ad game, and a little AI. Every week we got the chat on ADSN.
James back, rundown, another excellent episode on its way for listeners. I'm Daniel, you're James. Let's get right into it. What are we starting off this week? Kick us off, James.
All right, we got a great one here from Oren John, personal friend of yours, if I'm not incorrect about this.
Was on the podcast a while back.
He was on the podcast. He's
killer,
really blown
killer
up
creator.
Yeah, don't you know him from Hawaii or something?
Yeah. Go back and listen to that episode if you're listening right now, and you'll hear the origin story.
Yes, the origin. Just how Daniel became friends with a really famous influencer in Hawaii. But he said, creators and brands you can now link your IG, TikTok, and YouTube to Google Search Console. Now to see how your content shows up in search takes 2 minutes. Was revealing how much small long tail traffic I get on product and location review content in particular. This, like, if I ever wanted to know that creators are the new publishers, this is clearly like step one in this. And this, there's also this thing now where the creators are getting their own fast channels. You're obviously seeing it like Mr. Beast and others, but we're going to talk about this later on in the pod. But like Art Paro talks about how the open web has died. I think that what's happening is that the creators are the ones who stole it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the creators have taken over, right? And they've just proliferated the walled gardens, and we'll talk about that specifically. But I think this one is interesting because it's always been these walled gardens, and everyone's been keeping kind of the analytics within their own platforms. But Google can index videos. Obviously, that's good for Instagram, Twitter, or X, and TikTok, et cetera. Google can index it and now provide some analytics around it, the same way they do traditional websites, web pages, newsletters, everything else. This is just more content within the creator arsenal that they can analyze and build off of. But feeding into our next stories, staying on creators, there are 2 major changes over the past 7 days in the creator sphere. One is a very recent one, that YouTube is changing the structure of its creator program. So actually doubling the number of qualified watch hours before you can start to monetize, the number of shorts views. It's really a crackdown against AI and kind of faceless channels. They're really going after, verified creators' original thought. And then X separately rebranded and relaunched what is now their original content rewards program. It used to be the creator revenue sharing program. Brock Pearson has a really good breakdown here of why this actually is good for creators, but very similar. Kind of cracking down on faceless channels, cracking down on channels that were really kind of engagement farming, saying, retweet this, share this, and really pushing their followers for engagement, and really cracking down on people that aren't bringing either original video, original content, or original thought. So for reposting channels, the program doesn't monetize as well for them anymore. And so, it's 2. We saw Snap do it a while back. Like, I think this is just the new model. Like, people want verified creators.
Yes, two ideas come to mind. One, it's funny that it's not saying AI slop can't make money, but you need to create enough AI slop. And given that Google sells compute and AI, it's kind of funny. It's like, you must be a dedicated slop artist to monetize. That's like one thing.
Yeah.
The other is, I don't know, Nate Lorenzen. It's 2 things. So, Nate is pretty in the X famous now. Like, he's had some big hits. But are you aware that he was the one who created the Chamath collar meme?
I did not know he created the meme. Yeah. I saw all of his memes, but I didn't know it originated.
Apparently, Nate created it originally, right? And now that's gone totally parabolic. And so Nate has been on X. I saw this. I gotta find this tweet. Basically advocating for derivative works rights. You should get more revenue for it. It's just it's so silly, but I don't know, just it's sort of the beginning I think in some ways it's the beginning of the end. I'm so bullish on the social networks, but the fact that they got to monetize all this without rev sharing for so long was like an amazing hack that like everyone knew about. And then now it's like those days are definitely over.
Well, I mean, back to your point on like creators are the new publishers. Like we saw this story play out, right? Publishers got free traffic, all this stuff, and the platforms, the algorithms kind of prioritize them, and then the rules changed overnight, right? And like it's kind of same thing happening. Creators were playing by a set of rules, and then the platforms change it, but their distribution is locked in, which I actually think is a good call out to one of our sponsors, Beehive, which is a huge proponent and kind of builds all their messaging around own your audience, own your distribution. And I think this is, a perfect example that leverage these distribution channels, but you need to be able to own your audience elsewhere.
That was not
the rules change. Yeah.
That was not a paid ad, but it did.
No,
it did come out of like I think I talked about this one of the weeks, but I watched the Truman Show a couple weeks ago. Did we talk about this in the podcast, or was I just telling you?
I think we did, but a good Truman Show, reference is always welcome.
The Truman Show is incredible. The movie was so awesome, but that randomly they'll be talking because Truman doesn't know yet, and then like they'll be like, "Ooh, like I could really use like a clean new whatever," and then like there's like some like sponsored little piece. I think Beehive did not pay for that, but it felt paid only because Beehive is so good and so aligned to the outcomes. But
now it feels paid.
No. I do think that the problem is like where does it end? Like, and I really do like the Beehive guys, and like I think what they're doing is awesome. But like, it's at some point they will have to make a choice that ends up benefiting Beehive potentially over the creator too. So it's like this whole dance of like, where does it all go? It really just makes me think that if someone, and we'll talk about this later on, but like there was that All In podcast blurb about how Starlink basically acts as a subscription service to pay for all of SpaceX. And, I think it's like these social networks now need some other revenue stream outside of pure ads because the margin on the ads is going to get hit from this. Like it's only going to get worse than, at this point.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to switch to Ari's position, which I know you and I, but certainly you have been advocating for the last 10 years of that the open web's dying. It's accruing to these walled gardens where attention is, aggregated. That's where attention is. And Ari, who, is a legend in ad tech, was at Google, wrote the literal book called Yield, came out this week and kind of raised the white flag and said, this week finally feels like the open web is dead.
It coincided with what some of the ADSN staff referred to as the great flippening, in which Snapchat's market cap exceeded the Trade Desk once again. I follow the ADSN page on LinkedIn for more on that. And
if you don't, you definitely should. Great newsroom. I got to say, got to give that team credit.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. The open web, I don't even know. Again, like to some extent, it's TV. It definitely has like value there. But I think the thing I learned the most about watching the open web die like in front of us is that the stock market is really, really complicated. Because like, and I had tweeted about this before where it was so obvious that these open web plays were the things you should short. But like, just because you're right on the stock market doesn't mean you're going to nail the timing. And like, I feel like I'm like, what's Michael Burry? Like, the Big Short guy, everyone like
Big Short
now because he's always calling like the next crash. But like, first of all, he nailed the first one. So I'm not like Michael Burry, but like, yeah, he's right. Eventually, probably the market does tank. But I think like in this case, it was pretty clear. And I have nothing against Trade Desk. I think it's a great company, great people. But just like the economics of being a DSP, I think do not make sense in this new world. And unfortunately, that's, playing itself out. So, from an ads perspective, I think I wrote about this online where it's just like the supply side is going to be in a very good spot going forward, I think. And you'll see a lot more interesting things come out of that side than I think this pure demand side play.
Yeah. And I think, Eric Suford's been talking about this for years. If you look at the two biggest players in or I guess Google in particular, right? YouTube, just kind of eating kind of the display networks lunch over time. Like, it was inevitable. Like we saw the writing on the wall. We saw the trend happening in real time. We saw companies like where they were headed. So not super surprising. Probably more surprising that Ari wrote this piece, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is where we are. And I actually do laugh that everyone calls CTV the open web. I understand the pipes and like the meaning behind it, but I think the interaction points on the consumer side could not be more different.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, so now we're moving on to SpaceX. So what do we got here from Vibe Marketer?
Read it. Let's hear it.
Okay. Oh, well.
Yeah.
So Vibe Marketer had to say SpaceX may have built one of the greatest financing loops in tech. Rockets deploy Starlink. Starlink produces recurring cash. That cash then funds more rockets. More rockets expand Starlink. So the quintessential McKinsey flywheel, if you will. And they pulled this clip from Freeberg, from All In, and kind of going down the number of subscribers, the quarterly growth, and how this is putting them on a path to $30 billion of annual free cash flow. And they kind of joke that this is a rocket company built on subscriptions. It's not wrong. I mean, you look at the math. This is it.
Well, and I think to some extent, you look at like OpenAI and some of the stuff they're doing on Codex. Like, if you can have a subscription business tied to an ads business, right? Like, if you can just have some other ancillary business that can maintain that initial flywheel, then I think really interesting things obviously can come out of it. I think it's where like. And again, I'm still like an Uber bull on Meta, but they really do have to show that they have, I think, some sort of secondary revenue stream that can be sustaining outside of ads. So I look at OpenAI, I look at like, again, Claude's a little different because they really aren't going after consumer or Anthropic at this point. But I look at OpenAI and I'm like, wow, if you really could get Codex moving like big time, and you can get the consulting businesses that they're basically standing up there, and over time they become a compute provider, which I think is potentially viable, then that ads business gets to be really, really compelling, right? They can potentially overpay on the rev share. I mean, and you'll probably see this with X. Like, it's so now that X is part of SpaceX and you have this revenue stream, they'll probably, like, if we were sitting there, I think we'd be advocating for like 90-10 rev share with creators. Like, we would just like wouldn't you just bribe the creators to come on this platform?
You go buy volume, and you go buy attention until the whole thing flips in your direction, and then you slowly flip it back.
Yeah. No, and they're kind of doing that X money. To have your social network tied to a rocket business and a connectivity business like Starlink is pretty interesting if you can align all the pieces, which I think that's sort of the key is like, does SpaceX act like a conglomerate or does it act like a unified business? It feels like more like a unified business. And actually saw, I won't name his name, but a friend of ours is on the sales team there. I saw him posting on LinkedIn and he oversees gaming, but he had his gaming clients at like Starbase. But I think it kind of makes sense because you're trying to like sell them ads and saying you guys should use Grok for development. Like, you actually could see how you become like a multi-product salesperson with the all the pieces that X has. So yeah,
you have a payments provider now. You have a telecommunications provider.
Yeah,
arm every employee with Starlink. Never go down.
There's some. He's a smart guy. I'm curious how many things he can sell. Let's see. It's
all right. You sent me this one from Carl Mehta talking with Satya Nadella about how he views LinkedIn merging 4 job titles named product manager, designer, front-end engineer, and back-end engineer into one. And Satya kind of gives the example of kind of what that represents for the company now and how you build that in kind of a new model where the product manager kind of now does all these 4 functions and then there's a back-end engineer that connects it, and kind of there's someone that focuses on maybe tailoring the UX UI, but like you've front loaded that work for that first person, which I know we're doing at Universal Ads certainly, but we're not at the scale of LinkedIn. So it's interesting to hear a company of that, in that stratosphere.
But the comments kind of like roasted Satya on this, where it was like a bunch of people were like, I think there was like LinkedIn employees being like, I don't think this is actually happening. Like, we didn't know about this. And like, it showed like a little bit of a disconnect, but I think it makes sense. I mean, I mean, we obviously are trying to like implement it right now, and it will eventually work. I think it's a different way of doing things, but like the days of all these little handoffs and like, I think that, there's a little robot inside the computer that you can hand it off to.
I think it's probably easier for small teams, startups that can like maneuver around this. To your point of the comments, my favorite is everyone being like, LinkedIn maybe should hire them all back because this product is atrocious. Like,
it was pretty interesting. But I think, if I were doing a startup today, no way I'm hiring those jobs separately. Like there's just not a question.
And I think anyone trying to enter product now, anyone that's 20 to 26, like you better have a really good portfolio and position on how you operate in all of those seats.
I will say a little personal anecdote. I have vibe coded a bunch of stuff. I really only had one product that I thought, there's one product I really liked, but no one else liked it. And then there was one that I built, like this game called the Situation Game, that like actually some people like really liked playing.
It was fun. I liked it.
And I didn't like it, but then I decided, like, who am I to say what people should like? If they like this game, I'm going to rebuild it. So yesterday I started building it again. And originally I was going to do it in Codex. And then it's just, Codex still kind of sucks. It's like awesome for a minute and then it just can't get through this. So now I switched back to Claude. And Claude is so good, but it's so much better. I'm like rebuilding a game that I vibe coded maybe 2 months ago. And it is so much better now than it was then. That I got to the point where I got kind of bored. I was like, this is so stupid. I'm just like, I'm not even like, before you were kind of like yelling at it and like, like now it's like one-shotting these things. And I'm like, make it like Robin Hood and CNBC had a baby and like does it. And it's just, it was boring. I think I'll like post a link to it when it's done. But it does show you how much like more capacity we have. I could, if I was like with my family throughout the day yesterday, like sneaking into my office, building stuff. Like if I had uninterrupted, like I could have built like 1,000 things yesterday. Like it's really crazy.
Elon's building rockets. You're building Situation Game one shot.
We have to learn how to build real things because it makes it very clear these digital things are not going to be hard to do.
That is, it is part of the argument that like there is a dopamine hit associated with it, and there totally is. Same thing. I'm like one more before bed. Like let me get one more answer out. Let me get one more like update to the site. But when it gets so good, it's kind of just like Okay,
apparently
cool.
The FAA has found the same thing. That there was this shortage for FAA like air traffic control people, and they went to switch instead to just hire gamers. And like the gaming community is like really into air traffic control, I guess, which kind of makes sense because it is like a coordination thing, and it's like almost solved their entire recruiting challenge.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
interesting. Well, that to our last story of the day. This one coming from Oren Hoffman, who's former CEO of LiveRamp, Flex Capital, GP at Flex Capital. Just a legend. He reposted kind of, and maybe this doesn't count for X's new creator program for him to monetize against, but he reposted a Claude AI post, basically just what states have the highest usage. And his comment was not expecting this. For anyone that's not kind of watching on video, DC is the #1 state with the highest usage. And then it's, honestly, there was nothing really surprising for me. But then it's, the coasts. California, Utah, Nevada, Massachusetts, New York, like the coast. I will say, shout out Hawaii, really high user apparently on a per capita basis. So shout out to the folks on the island just doing some work. But yeah, I think everyone kind of was looking at DC as like, DC is the #1 user. which I guess, it is surprising if you think about it, but probably not. I mean, these are people that are doing a lot of research, that are drafting a lot of things, and like
I think
it makes me happy that they're using this because they need
I
to
think
understand it.
Everyone talks about like, oh, like I wonder if you could build an AI that like runs governments and like all this stuff. It's like, I bet we look back, like I can imagine like 40 years from now when we talk to AGI, and it's like, what was it like in 2026? And he's like, you guys handed us the government already. Like we were running it for you, idiots. You just didn't know.
Yeah. Your democracy was cute, and then I perfected it.
Yeah, you gave us the excellence. Some intern gave it to him.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So now we're hitting. It is that time.
Primary post. Primary post.
That time for primary posts. I'm going to start us this week because we've talked a lot about creators. This one coming from Brooke LeBlanc of Corgi. Learned what Corgi was like 2 weeks ago, but it is everywhere on X. But she basically posted an kind of internal dashboard that they call the internal Yapper leaderboard at Corgi. Basically, who's posting, where, getting the most comments, views, interactions, and it is an internal dashboard of people posting. And we talk all the time about like how companies need to embrace this like team posting mentality. That's how you get the story out. They vibe coded this like dashboard. It's incredible. I think more companies need more of this.
Yes, I think more of this. It's also why I think being at a early stage private company is so awesome because everyone's motivated by the stock. Like it's pretty, like when you work on something that you actually can impact, you could see what happens with this much like participation. I'd be curious to see how that works at like a variety of different companies that come to mind. But there's been a bunch of these startups that were built around like turning your employees into advocates, and a lot of them have been pretty interesting SaaS businesses. One of them, which I believe it was called Hearsay Social, was raised a lot of money, kind of mid 2010s, but the woman who ran it now runs Meta for Business. And apparently, I never met her. Apparently, really, really, really smart. And so, kind of back to that original point, maybe Meta has an opportunity to make some money because you imagine like WhatsApp is a very obvious place to turn everyone into advocates and things like that. So I like it. To end this here, it's probably this tweet's been written by many people, but the version that I'm sharing is John Palmer. And it's in reference to this tweet about from an account called Signal about the most underrated hire right now is a great product person. And it's really just about how, and the tweet that John has is every company should be hiring senior idea guy. And kind of to what we were just talking about with vibe coding, like it is so awesome I think right now it's an incredible time. I happen to think of myself as an idea guy. So I think I'm employable for a very long time because of my willingness to be an idea guy. And if you are someone that is an idea or guy or girl, I really go get back into vibe coding. If you haven't for a while, get back in because it's gotten so much better and so much easier. And I want to see all the things that you build because this shit is awesome. So that is my primary post.
Love it. All right. Well, let's get off of here and start building something. You got me ready to go through a wall. Let's do it.
Situationgame.com coming soon.
All right.
It's ADSN on the beat, where the data meets the street. James and Daniel in your feed, breaking down the code you need. Tech talk, ad game, and a little AI. Every week we got the chat on ADSN.